Boy, was I ever wrong about this past weekend's flyweight title fight between Henry Cejudo and TJ Dillashaw. I don't consider myself a master fight picker to begin with, although I do have a good record with my official picks when I have made them public, but I felt pretty confident that Cejudo was getting a little too big for his britches and that his confidence he had on display in the lead up to this fight would end up being his undoing. It turns out it was the complete opposite. I want to say I was really surprised, but everyone who follows the fight game has gotten used to expecting the unexpected at this stage. As for the stoppage, I don't have a problem with it. We've certainly seen much worse than that over the years. Though I will say that although TJ was in major trouble, he still seemed to be coherent enough, and you can never say for sure what would have happened had the fight not been stopped. We've seen many fights over the years that could have been stopped many times throughout the duration of the bout, only to see the fighter on the wrong end of the barrage rally back to get the win. But all in all, fair stoppage and an outstanding win by Cejudo. But this talk of an instant rematch at 135 pounds was played out and tiresome before it ever began. The prospect of Cejudo's next fight being for the bantamweight title against Dillashaw could not be any less intriguing to me. Never mind the fact that the future of the flyweight division is essentially hanging in the balance of the newly crowned champion. Doing the instant rematch between these two is a really good way to take the wind out of the sails of an otherwise potentially great rivalry. I really appreciate the effect Conor McGregor has had on this sport. It's crazy to think how much of an influence a single individual has had over the sport and all the fighters who partake in it. But the ugly side of the byproduct of the McGregor era has reared its ugly head way too often for my liking. Everyone trying to be a two-weight division champ has become so tiresome and so hard to listen to, it's completely detracted from the specialness of that feat, and has simply become the trendy, cool thing to say and do. I can't be the only one sick and tired of this narrative, can I? What happened to taking pride in defending the crown of your respective division and trying to be the longest reigning champion in the history of said division? In this day and age, a fighter claiming to try to conquer a weight class and take on any and all comers is an outlier. It's almost as if the days of being the face of a division are over. Is it because the record for the longest title defense in history is just too unrealistic of a mountain to climb? Is it because the prospect of being a two-weight world champion would come a lot quicker and perhaps even easier than trying to settle down in your own division? I have to say that I don't blame Cejudo or any other fighter for going after the fights that put the most shine on them. I just don't like it, and as a fan, it has the opposite effect on me in terms of generating excitement. It's becoming way too mundane and predictable. The prospect of an instant rematch between Cejudo and Dillashaw is especially unappealing to me right now because the fate of the flyweight division is on such shaky ground. And the only way to truly establish any weight class is to have the face of it, a champion that all contenders aspire to get a crack at, like the good old days. But lastly, as mentioned earlier, booking an instant rematch takes so much away from what this fight could be if the two were to go their separate ways for their next fights, in hopes to eventually one day get what both men want. Joseph Benavidez is the rightful flyweight contender. He deserves for his next fight to be for the flyweight title. The bantamweight division has been held up in the wake of Dillashaw dipping out in an attempt to become a two-weight class champion himself. So whoever the rightful contender is at 135 should be Dillashaw's next opponent, no questions asked. If Cejudo gets past Benavidez and Dillashaw is able to earn a title defense in his next fight, Dillashaw versus Cejudo 2 becomes attractive again, and with time having passed, it would only build anticipation and momentum for Cejudo finally getting his opportunity to become a two-weight champion. If you book an instant rematch, this fight has 1/10 of the allure it would otherwise have. And if Benavidez goes in there and wipes the floor with Cejudo, and or if Dillashaw is handed his second loss in a row and the rematch doesn't come to fruition, then so be it. It wasn't meant to be. Matchmakers exist for a reason, and I think it's high time that they take back control and ease off on letting the fighters picking their matchups. Trying to manipulate storylines and narratives never comes out the way as planned, at least not for very long. Let's get back to respecting the hierarchy of divisions and contenders and let these weight classes get established. An instant rematch between Henry Cejudo and TJ Dillashaw is not the fight to make.
This is Game